Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
A very, very warm welcome to everyone out there, wherever you are in the world. It is such a joy and an honor to be here with you all. I really am hugely honored and very, very excited to be welcoming an incredible guest to the show. It's a gentleman who really has achieved an immense amount in his career and has really built up something quite phenomenal in a very short space of time. And his name is Dr. Ivan Misner, who is, some of you may be very familiar and should be, with BNI. He's the Chief Visionary Officer of that, and it's the world's largest business networking organization. And it was founded not that long ago, only 1985. So it may seem a long time ago, but actually in the grand scheme of things, it's not. It has over 11,000 chapters in 76 different countries. It, through its members, produced $20.4 billion worth of business for its members in just 2022, which is just extraordinary. And Dr. Ivan Misner is very much part of the University of Southern Carolina, and he is a New York best-selling author. Dr. Misner has been known as the father of modern networking by both Forbes and CNN, and Dr. Misner is considered to be one of the world's leading experts on business networking and has been a keynote speaker for major corporations and associations throughout the world. He has been featured in the LA Times, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, as well as numerous TV and radio shows, including CNN, the BBC from the United Kingdom, and the Today Show on NBC. He is possibly one of the most traveled people I know, 7 continents around the world. We've just been talking backstage, and he's jumping on a plane very soon to go to various different countries. Bit of pleasure, and obviously to connect with his BNI hubs around the world. And he's not only that, he's a humanitarian of the year from the Red Cross, and is just incredible in what he's achieved. And on the side, something I find out about him is that he's an amateur magician. So unfortunately, we won't have time for bringing any bunny rabbits out the hat today, but he's also a black belt karate martial arts expert. So it's not going to be someone that you want to mess with, but he looks like a wonderful looking gentleman. So even if you met him in a dark alley, I don't think you'd be too afraid. Without further ado, I'd like to bring Dr. Misner into the studio.
Hi, Philip. Thanks.
How are you, Ivan?
I am doing fantastic. Doing great.
Wonderful.
You're talking to me from my home office in Austin, Texas.
Austin, Texas. How wonderful. And is it beautiful weather? We've always got to talk about the weather when we come from the UK. We're always talking about the weather.
Yeah, well, it's been brutal here. It's been really, really hot. It's been over 100 degrees, which I don't know what that is.
That's hot.
Almost 40. Yeah.
That's
but it's great today. It's 89 degrees, or it's going to get to 89. So it's nice. It's warm, but not brutal.
No, wonderful. Well, it's just really great to see you, and great for joining us. We've only got a very short space of time. I really want to jump into a couple of questions, but firstly, reading up on you and your organization, one thing here at the British School of Excellence is that we have so many incredible common core values in mind, and one of your biggest core values, I think, is your giver's gain. Would you elaborate on that beautiful term, giver's gain?
Yeah, giver's gain is our principal core value as an organization. It's really the first of the 7 core values that I created for BNI when I started it in 1985. But to me, giver's gain is more than a phrase. It's a way of living one's life. It's a perspective to view and interact with the world. It's an attitude, not an expectation. And when it's applied properly, it'll change your life. And when it changes enough lives, it'll change the world. And we're very pleased that that's our principal core value.
I absolutely love that. One of the things in one of the pillars we share with all our students is always having a "what can I do for you" attitude. How can I support you? How may I help you? And it just is wonderful. Gives me goosebumps. When we were talking backstage, I know you are incredibly well traveled, and when it comes to connecting with people around the world, there is an element, or a very strong element, of how do we connect with people that are foreign to us. As you know, you come from the USA. I originally was born in Africa, been living in the UK since 1999 permanently. When you go to countries like Asia, I'd love some insight from you on connecting and networking in that part of the world.
Yeah, so whenever you go to another country, and I think this is really important, you need to talk to a local, someone you trust and you know, and find out the do's and the don'ts, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. When I go to another country, I tell them my jokes, I tell them my stories that I'm going to use in my speech, because inevitably, I find that in some countries, a simple phrase or a hand gesture is offensive. I remember I was doing a presentation in my own training center at the time. I was in Los Angeles, and to make a point, I said, you have to make sure, and the Malaysian director in the room was like, when you come to Malaysia, don't do that. And I'm like, why? He said, that's like flipping somebody the middle finger in Malaysia. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I do that all the time. He's like, well, you better find something else. So I'm like, okay, well, can I do this? And he said, yeah, that's fine. So I literally, because I was going there in a few months, I literally practiced for like 3 months doing this instead of this, because I didn't want to offend a lot of people who were in the event. But so you learn from the local people before you go. For example, in many Asian countries, Japan in particular, but India, China, you hand out business cards differently. In Japan, they call it the maishi ritual. And, anybody that's been to Asia has seen it, or you hold a card by the tips, and you present the card to somebody and bow, and they accept the card, and you comment on the card, and you hand them your card that way, very respectfully. And that's different than like in North America. In America, oh yeah, here's my card. It's no big deal, but you don't want to do that, and don't write on their card. I know etiquette is important with this group, and so don't write on the card. Take a notepad if you're in Asia. Take a notepad. Don't even ask them, hey, is it okay if I write a note on your card? Because they'll say yes, and then they'll think you were just rude and you didn't know the culture. So get a local person, know the hand gestures to use and not use, and run your stories by local people before you do them on stage, which I have done once or twice at a country that I'd gone to many times, and I thought I knew all of this stuff, and I didn't, and I should have run the story by somebody.
Yeah, I love that story, and I do know of a story where there was a gentleman from a particular country, and a Japanese gentleman and this gentleman had discussed a fantastic opportunity for both companies, and they went off to have lunch together to sort of commemorate and celebrate the deal that was put on the table. And at the end of the meal, this gentleman who was a foreigner sort of reached into his pocket and pulled out the Japanese gentleman's business card and started picking his teeth with
Oh,
it.
good God. You wouldn't want to do that anywhere, but in Japan, of all places? Oh,
yeah.
No.
The deal behind the scenes, as you know that phrase, it's a save face, and behind the scenes, off the back of that, the deal never went through. Surprise, surprise. So I love that is such a key tool, and something I know it's not a tip or a trick. These are key tools that we're sharing here. And it really is. I mean, I'm sure we could go through some interesting faux pas. Absolutely, hand gestures. I know in Brazil that if you do that particular thing, which we might mean everything's okay, it's an absolute no-no.
Yeah, it's like the middle finger as well, I think.
Absolutely. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen out there, what Dr. Ivan Misner is sharing with us is crucial. We need to do our homework in a very thorough way. Tell me, Ivan, Do you think some people are just very naturally good at networking? And do you feel that they are the ones that sort of tend to benefit? And is it a skill that everyone can learn, or is it something that you think you're born with?
I think it's definitely a skill that you can learn. I think there are a lot of people who think they're good at networking and probably aren't as good as they think they are. And those tend to be, believe it or not, extroverts who think they're really good at networking because they'll walk up and meet anybody and talk to anybody. So look, the truth is both introverts and extroverts can be good at networking. Uh, Extroverts have no problem meeting people. They'll walk up, they'll meet people, they'll say hi. Here's the problem with extroverts. They can't shut up. They don't listen. They love to talk. And you know what their favorite subject is? Themselves. So they love to talk about themselves. A good networker has two ears and one mouth, and you should use them both proportionately. A good networker is like an interviewer. You're asking me questions and you're allowing me to elaborate, to go into detail. That's what a good networker should do, is they should ask questions and allow the person to elaborate. And so people who think they're good at networking often are not good at listening, which is a key part of networking. Now let's flip that. The people who sometimes think they're bad at networking because they're an introvert. They don't, they're not great about meeting people. If you develop the skill, one of the skill is, you go to a networking event and go with a friend who will introduce you to people. Go with an extrovert who will introduce you to people. Now, the introverts are good listeners as a rule. They will listen and ask questions. They have a hard time meeting people, but when they meet people, they ask questions, listen, and make a good connection. So I think both introverts and extroverts can be good at networking. I think some people may be born, good at networking, but they probably think they're better than they are because too many people think that networking is a face-to-face cold calling opportunity. Hi, my name's Ivan, let's do business. Or maybe you could refer me to somebody. Networking is about building relationships. Networking is more about farming than it is about hunting. It's about cultivating relationships with people. And that's a taught skill for most. And we don't teach it, by the way, in colleges and universities. We don't teach networking, social capital, emotional intelligence.
I love that answer. And funny enough, today I was chatting to a very dear friend of mine who's actually godfather to my eldest daughter, and his son has just finished his A-levels here in the United Kingdom, and he got some good results. But we actually went on to this, Ivan, in the sense of, it's fascinating. You've got to get X, Y, and Z in mathematics, and you might only ever use 20, 25%, and unless you were going down the quantum physics route or something. And you're so right, they do not teach these incredible tools and skills at schools. And this is a global challenge. And this is something where I know how you have developed some incredible material, not only material, but the effectiveness that you've distributed globally around the world. And I know in one of your podcasts, one of the areas I think is your Message Clear podcast is, what would you say to someone who is going out there on a regular basis? Is your message clear? How would you give someone some guidance and steering on that?
Well, there's a few things. It depends on whether you're meeting somebody for the first time in a large group, or whether you're going to a networking event like BNI where you get together. For those of you who don't know, BNI, we meet every week. It's a group of 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 people. Mostly the same people with visitors, and everyone has a chance to stand each week and give a short presentation. That's a different kind of introduction than an introduction one-to-one with somebody. An introduction one-to-one with somebody is part of, in one of my books, I call it the 12 by 12 by 12 rule. How do you look 12 feet away? Do you look professional? How do you come across 12 inches away? Okay, don't get 12 inches, but up close, how do you come across? Are you coming across positive and interesting? Are you it's more important to be interested than interesting when you're meeting somebody. And what are the first 12 words you say when you're meeting someone individually? And when you do the first 12 words or so, you want to use a unique selling proposition, something that really catches their attention. My friend Sam Horn calls it the eyebrow test. You give a statement about who you are and what you do, and watch their eyebrows. If their eyebrows scrunch down, you've lost them. They didn't understand what you just said. However, if the eyebrows go up, you got their attention. And so and you could say the exact same thing, but I'm sorry, they may respond the exact same with the exact same words, but you watch their eyebrows. For example, you say something and their eyebrows scrunch, and you say, "Well, how do you do that?" You've lost them. And if their eyebrows go up, you go, "How do you do that?" That's okay. You got their attention. Here's an example of a unique selling proposition. It's a company that I know really well, Ascentive. And I think it's exactly 12 words. We help people work less. Make more, and create referrals for life. I think that's their entire phrase. And usually people's eyebrows go up, and they go, "Oh, how do you do that?" And so say something memorable. It's called a unique selling proposition that gets their attention. On the other hand, if you're doing a weekly thing, don't do that. It's too generic and it's too short. What you want to do is get laser specific about what you do, and each week cover a different thing. Each week, something different. Don't say the same thing every week, because you're trying to, in an environment like that, you're trying to train a sales force or a referral team. You're trying to train people to refer you. You're not trying to close a sale. So it depends on the context, but those are the two methods in those two contexts.
That for me is invaluable guidance and steering. It really and truly is. And just going back to what you shared earlier, in the sense of me, meeting someone and immediately asking him for something, and you haven't even built a relationship or rapport. And that word farming and cultivating, and that is, the old adage, I suppose, it goes back to people do business with people they like and trust. And that really is a phenomenal amount of guidance and steering. In the networking up, you talk about in one of your areas of networking up, and you talk about generally, at the top of the room, it's not so crowded, but at the bottom of the room, it's very, very crowded. And please share some tools and guidance on the idea of effectively networking up, and getting in front of successful people using some dynamic tools, and what tools have you heard from people and how they do go about doing this sort of thing?
Well, first and foremost, when you're networking up, and by that I mean you're networking with somebody that you think is in a higher weight class than you are. They're more successful than you are, and it's they may not be, they may be, but you believe they're more successful or have greater contacts, and you feel like you're networking up. First and foremost, don't sell to them. Don't sell to them. I've had a chance to spend time with multimillionaires, billionaires. I've had the opportunity to go to Necker Island, Richard Branson's island, 5 times. I spent a number of weeks there, and I watched people pitch Richard, and I'm like, really? Oh, don't do that. And here's why it's a bad idea. I mean, people think, well, I'm never going to have a chance again. I'm going to do it now. Well, I had the chance. They go back to the old adage, it never hurts to ask, right? Wrong. Totally wrong. It definitely hurts to ask if you don't have a relationship. You got to build a relationship. They got to trust you a little bit. And when they trust you, then it doesn't hurt to ask. But first, you got to build the trust. And I've seen people pitch people, and people who are successful get pitched constantly. And so if you want to be part of the crowd and pitch them like everybody else, you can do that. But it's not a good way to network up. Instead, what you want to do is you want to find out what they're working on. And that's why I love the internet. I mean, you can be in the corner of a room, you see somebody, you go, I want to meet this person, get to know them a little bit more, make a connection. You Google, you Google them. What are they working on? What are they excited about? And then when you meet them, you say, hey, I hear this new project that you're working on. Tell me about it. And it's really amazing how they just light up. Let me give you a quick story. On several of my visits to Necker Island, I wanted to do a video with Richard, but I didn't want to be one of those guys who would go up and say, hey, Richard, can we do a video together, please, for my blog? I didn't want to do that. So I did some Google research. And I think there's 3 videos up on my blog. My blog is ivanmisner.com. So 3 videos. And what I did was I went and I said to him, hey, I hear that you're working on this thing called the B team, which is about the business team and how business can make a difference and be very quick to act, unlike government or nonprofit organizations. Business can make a difference. That's the concept. And I said, I really love the concept. Talk to me about it. He lit up. He absolutely lit up. He was really excited talking about the B team, the business team. And I said, that sounds fantastic. How can I help you with this? And he said, well, you run this really large network, get the word out about the B team. I'm like, I'm happy to do it. Would you like to do a video and I'll make sure it gets out? And he's like, yeah, that'd be great. And so what I did was I looked for a way to help him that was meaningful to him. And hey, having him on a video with me on my blog is pretty good too, for me. But it got the word out for him. So I looked for an opportunity to help him rather than sell to him. And how can I help you? He could have just as easily, by the way, said, no, nothing in particular, but I appreciate the. He could have said that, but no, he said, get the word out. All right, this is the way to get the word out. So find a way. If you're networking up, look for opportunities to help them, and it should be within the context of what they're most interested in. Listen, I got a whole 1 hour talk on this one topic, so that's a brief answer for you.
I love that, and I know Sir Richard Branson is a great tennis player. Did you get a chance to hit tennis balls with him?
I don't play tennis. My fiance played tennis with him, and I watch them play. He's a great chess player, and I've probably played two or three dozen games with him over the years. Very competitive, and we're pretty evenly matched. We win and lose about the same amount.
I was going to ask chess who came out on top, but I love that, and it's wonderful. And as you said, especially this networking up, so many of us are so keen and eager to interact with people and ask, or they think that person might improve their brand, and if they don't know you, they're not going to be willing to sort of jump over a fence for you. So that for me is such golden guidance and steering, and it really is about building that rapport. And again,
and can I add one other thing about what? So here's another thing not to do other than don't sell to them. Never ask somebody if you're meeting them for the second time or third time or fifth time. Never say to them, "Do you remember me?" I can't tell you how many people do that. Oh, hi, it's good to see you again. Do you remember me? And look, people like Branson, he's thousands and thousands of people. And listen, I'm not in Branson's league. I'm networking up when I'm networking with Branson, but I meet tens of thousands of people because BNI's got over 300,000 members. And when somebody says to me, "Do you remember me?" It's like, oh, I feel so bad. And so give them context. So, if you meet somebody that you've met before, say to them, "Hey, it's great to see you again. We met 3 years ago when you were in town and you did a presentation on such and such a topic." And it's like, all right, you gave me context. Yes, I remember that event. It's great to see you again. So don't ever ask, "Do you remember me?" Instead, give them context. So when I reach out to Branson, and I don't do it too often, I always send a photo of him and I together. And I'll say, "Hey, we've met on Necker a few times. Here's a picture of us. Here's my question." And of course, he always responds by going, "Oh, of course I remember you, Ivan." Hell, I don't know if he remembers me or not, but I made it easy for him to not get embarrassed about not knowing who I was. I just thought I'd throw that in.
Yeah, that is such key advice and guidance. That really and truly is something that I would love to ask you as well, Ivan, is with regard to details on people. Have you got any guidance and steering? For example, let's say, and I haven't had the privilege of meeting your fiance yet, and I don't know her name, but let's say I did know your fiance's name and we met at an event and networking, and then we got chatting. How important is it to bring some detail back into not only giving the person the intro of where you would have met in the past? So I met you, Mr. Myers, Dr. Myers, and we met in America at X, Y, and Z event, and tell me, how is X, your fiance, doing? Is that something that you encourage people to polish up on and be a little bit more focused on?
Yeah, I think the master at that was Harvey McKay. He wrote the book Swim with the Sharks Without Getting Eaten Alive. He also wrote the book Dig Your Well Before You're Thirsty. And I think it's in that book that he talks about this very thing, that when you do talk to people, take notes. Take notes about what you talked about. Take personal notes about at the time when I first met Harvey, I was playing golf, and I told him he asked, how many children do you have? How old are they? What's your wife? My wife passed away a few years ago, but when he would ask about her, and then every time he called me, he would say, how's the golf game going? Doing any better? And how's Ashley? How's Trey? How's Dorian? I mean, I knew it. I read his book. I knew he had this stuff in his hand, but I was still impressed as heck that he walked the talk. He talked about doing this, and it makes you feel like he cares. That he would take the time to do that and to build a relationship. So yeah, get details and write them down if you can.
That's amazing, and I'd love to share something with you on sort of a return shot there, in the sense of we run a train the trainer program, and we've got an amazing alumni platform, which I hope a lot of our train the trainer students are able to join us. And there's an amazing woman from America, Carol Sterling. She's got a company called Sterling Etiquette, and she shared a story many years ago. Back in the days, Ivan, that you and I will remember. Fax machines and photocopiers and all those sort of things. And this woman worked for, I think, with HP or something. And she was head of sales, and she would open up her big book and she would pick up the phone and say, "Oh, Mr. Misner, how are you? It's Mary. How are your beautiful children? They must be going to grade 4 now. How's Michael?" And she would rattle off all these personal details, but not too personal. And she was the most successful person in the whole outfit when it came to building rapport and doing sales.
You know what? I think it shows people that you care.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it work so well in a sales environment and in a networking environment. I mean, if you remember even the slightest details. I mean, I'll give you another example. I already talked about Branson a lot, but I'll give you another great example of him. He's really good with the details, because I saw him at a Virgin Galactic event maybe 6 months after I first met him, and we were talking about children and the challenge of raising children in an affluent family. And I talked to him about my son, and he talked to me about his family. And when we met, luckily there's this great photograph. Somebody took the photograph as Richard's talking to my son. And this is just 6 months later, but he remembered the conversation. And somebody took a picture, and I'm standing, so it's Richard and my son, and I'm standing in the back. I got this big grin on my face because Richard's talking to him about the importance of lifelong learning, which was one of my concerns about Trey, whether he would stay in school or not. And Richard remembered that I had this conversation about education, and he's telling my son lifelong learning is really important, whether you do it through a university or whatever. You gotta be constantly learning. And I'm thinking, wow. And he didn't write that down, and he wasn't looking at notes, but he remembered that one nugget, and it was a home run. So yeah, it makes a world of difference.
And that really leads me on to a fundamental question: is when we go to networking events now, give or take, so I know BNI is wonderful in the sense that they will introduce themselves and they all support one another. That's absolutely amazing. But when we go to, let's say, a networking event, let's say it's 100 people at a, I don't know, an accountancy firm or conference or whatever it might be. How important it is to do your homework before you go to that event, and how important is it to really sort of make an effort to be very, very sort of, obviously, I think I know the answer to this before I even answer, to be really, really present during that time. So 2 things here: preparation and presence.
Well, that's such a multifaceted question. I think you want to talk to as somebody who's running the event to find out some of the people that are there. You can't do your homework on 100 people before you go to an event, but you want to do your homework on some of the maybe more interesting people, or some of the people in a certain profession that you might be interested in. So getting a list of the people in the professions that they're in is good, or talking to somebody who's running the event is good. So you want to do that if at all possible. And then when you go to the event, you want to ask questions that get people to open up. So ask them about what do you love most about what you do? What's your favorite product or service that you provide? What are some of the challenges you've got in this business? Or what type of clients are you working with? Get them. It's an interview, like you're interviewing me, and you do an interview. Remember, it's not an interrogation; it's an interview. But get this information out of them. Now there was a second part to that question, and I
sidetracked myself. No, I love the way you've answered that about being actually physically and mentally present, because what we find, and I'm sure you found this over the years, is people their mind is elsewhere. They're not in the moment. They might have their phone buzzing in their right hand. And talk to me about presence. How fundamental?
Yeah, that's really important. Even if you're talking to somebody that you don't necessarily think can, be of much help to you, or that you're not particularly interested in. I remember once going to an event, and it was an important event to me. It's an organization that I belong to, and there was a person that I wanted to sit next to. And just the way things ended up getting arranged, I sat across from his daughter, who was like 20. Instead of sitting by him, it was somebody in between his daughter, and he was off on the side. And I'm like, okay, here's this 20-year-old for an entire dinner sitting across from me. And I thought, okay, you know what? Here I am. Let's make the best of it and walk the talk. And so I just dug deep with her and asked her questions about the college that she was going to, and what her major was, and what she loved about her major, and what she hated about her major, and what kind of friends that she had there. And I mean, I just got her to open up, and I learned a whole lot about her, and there were great things. But here's the really cool message from that. When we were leaving, the guy that I wanted to sit next to, that I wanted to sit across from, walked up to me and said, "Thank you." I said, "For what?" He said, "None of the members have spent that kind of time with my daughter. I heard you, asking her questions and showing genuine interest. I really can't tell you how much I appreciate that. And I'd love to sit together tomorrow and let's talk." And I'm like, wow, you never know. You never know. And it might not be the person that you really want to see, but you treat them like the person that you really want to see, because you never know who's watching. It's also the right thing to do.
Of course, it's the right thing to do, but that gives me goosebumps. It really and truly does. And it's going back to what can I do for you attitude, and digging a bit deeper. And not only that, Ivan, something that we share, and we get students from a very young age right through to the oldest person walk through the door, 78 years old. We get them to write down a couple of introductions about themselves. The first one is, "I am my brand." They need to write that down, and we go on this journey. But again, we get everyone to write down, "I would like to be the person that I would like to meet." And the third one to that string of material I get the students, or we as coaches get students to write down, is, "One person, one opportunity can change your life for the rest of your life, because you made that effort, because you showed up, because you put your best foot forward." And as you say, you never know what can come of just one thing. And I think if we all have that sort of attitude in everything we do, the door will open.
I agree in part. And here's why. I mean, there are rare occasions in life where one thing, it's like flipping a switch and it changes everything. But my experience of success is that it's more of a layer cake than one thing. That you're just building on what you've done before you, and that it all adds up over time. And I can't really think of any one thing that changed my life. I can think of a lot of things that changed the trajectory and helped me a lot. And I bring this up only because I find that all too often, particularly entrepreneurs, are looking for the magic bullet, the magic recipe. What is that one thing that's going to change everything? And the truth is, it's a lot of things. It's I tell business people, you want to be successful in business, do 6 things 1,000 times, not 1,000 things 6 times. And all too many business people are doing 1,000 things 6 times. They're chasing bright, shiny objects instead of doing things. And by the way, it doesn't have to be 6. It could be 5. It could be 7. But it's about doing something over and over and over and over again, consistently over time, where people see how good you are at what you do, and you become an expert at it, and they gravitate to you because of that. Does that make sense?
I love that answer. Layer cake. I love that answer. It's just so on point. And funny enough, that leads me into something I've been thinking about. When it comes to connecting with people, and you touched on this earlier about our emotional intelligence. Now, something that we are fundamental about in the vision and focus of our organization is the power of etiquette, manners, and emotional intelligence. In other words, the correlation from you to me and to the audience that we're engaging with. What is your take on what I've just sort of mentioned, and how important do you think it is to have good etiquette, good manners, and work and develop your EQ when it comes to building business, but networking and the whole platform?
I think it makes a big difference, and we're not taught by most schools these kinds of things. My first lesson in getting along with people I got when I was 13 years old from my mother when I was running for student council, and she gave me. Now I'm 67 years old. She gave this to me when I was 13. It's a paperweight, and I'll read it to you. It says, "Diplomacy is the art of letting someone else have your way." Diplomacy is the art of letting someone else have your way. And she said, "Honey, you are a bull in a china shop. You just knock people over. You have got to learn how to work with people." She said, "This is about collaboration, not manipulation. But if you learn how to work with people and coach them and guide them and help them, and really look towards finding solutions that will help them, you can be a great leader. But you got to learn how to be diplomatic." And we certainly don't teach this in school. There are certain, maybe in the MBA program, there are some good leadership courses that are taught at schools, but in leadership should teach some of this emotional intelligence. Does that answer your question?
Oh, very much so, very much so. Emotional intelligence it's a lifesaver. And the beautiful thing about emotional intelligence is we can develop emotional intelligence. It's not necessarily something that you have to sort of look at like your IQ. It's your EQ.
Your EQ, yeah. And an important thing that I've learned over the years is that people really don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And when they know you care, they're much more open to listening to what you have to say. And then the next step, when you're trying to coach people, guide people, move them along, is that people don't care about how until they understand why. And that's a total emotional intelligence hack. When you start with why this is important, why is it important for us to be doing this? And you give them the information, which should be some fact and some emotion and definitely results. Give this information. And once they get the why, then they're open to the how. And my experience is, especially when you have somebody who's really pushing back, I don't want to do it, I don't want to do it. And you give them the big why and you do it really well. They never go, okay, yay, I'm all in. But they'll go, all right, I get it, I understand. And when you do that, when you talk about the how, when people understand you care, and then you talk about the why before the how, those are hacks for emotional intelligence in collaborating with people.
One more, Ivan, I love what you shared there, but give us that little phrase again, one more time for the benefit of the audience.
Which one? There's a couple. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. 100%.
I just love that. I just think that is phenomenal.
It is so important because you could walk in as the expert, but if you're arrogant and difficult, they don't want to hear it. So, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And the other is that people, they don't care about why until they understand. They don't care about how until they understand why. And when they understand why, when they really get why we're going to do what we're going to do, then they're open to listening to the how.
I think that's treasure, not gold. That's gold. That's a box of treasure. It's just absolutely brilliant. And I know for a fact that anybody engaging and having the privilege to connect with you, and thank you again for your time, is that just take away some of these golden nuggets and put them into practice. And I know for a fact there will be things starting to open up and make a huge difference in one's life. But if we've always done what we've always done, we're always going to do what we've always done. So, yeah, 100%. I know our producers mentioned we've got a few comments coming through. May we take a couple of comments?
Yeah, I'm happy to take comments or questions.
Comments or questions.
Whatever you guys have.
I think this is the best networking tip call I've ever been on. Really useful. Thank you. And that's from Kyle. Kylie, is it Kylie? I think it's Kylie. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Kyle, can I give you one more?
Yeah, let's go.
This is really important, and we'll do another comment or question. The basis of everything I teach, the foundation of everything I teach in networking is three things: visibility, credibility, profitability. Visibility, credibility, profitability. First, you have to be visible. People have to know who you are and what you do. Then you establish credibility. That's the one that takes time. And that's the trust. So credibility is where people know who you are, what you do, and they know you're good at it because they've observed or they've been told by others. Then and only then can you get to profitability, where people know who you are, they know what you do, they know you're good at it, and they're willing to pass referrals to you on an ongoing basis. The VCP process. It's not a formula. Visibility plus credibility does not necessarily equal profitability. It's a process. You go from visibility to credibility to profitability. That's the foundation of everything I teach. It's the mindset. When you get the mindset right, then all the skill set stuff can come into play. Thanks for that comment, Kyle.
That's amazing. Next comment. What have we got coming through from our producer? This is from Janita Burke. Philip, Dr. Misner, do you have an app that you use to quickly make notes if you're at a large networking event? Is that something that's out there, or something that you would sort of encourage, Ivan?
Yeah, so I don't really, if I do notes, it's on a notepad. But if there's something that I really want to completely catch, I use Otter, Otter, which is an online app. And of course, it's a recording, so you got to ask, depending on what country you're in and what state you're in, you got to ask before you start recording, and it's the ethical thing to do anyway. If somebody's saying something and you go, well, this is amazing, do you mind if I record this? And then record it. I've done that many. I've done it with Branson. I've asked him, a couple of times, do you mind if I record this? The beauty of Otter is that it not only records it on audio, it transcribes it. So you get a transcription. It's not perfect, but you get a really, really good transcription of the conversation. So particularly whenever I'm interviewing somebody, I use Otter so that I get a transcription as well as the audio.
Wonderful. One of the things I actually do is when I'm connecting with someone, and you've only got a few moments with each individual, is in that moment of bidding farewell and thanking that person, and it's been a pleasure to meet you. And I know there's some really important gold that I've taken on board from that individual. I've never ever written on anyone's business card because of the exact reason what you shared with us earlier. But I will nip off to the men's loo and I will, make a note or even do a little voice recording just to, just so I can come back. Because something I wanted to ask you is how important it is it, Ivan? So following up, okay, how many people make the mistake of not following up that you've come across?
Huge number. Huge number of people make that mistake. It's a big mistake. So let me give you a formula for follow-up. I call it the 24/7/30 formula for follow-up. 24/7/30 formula for follow-up. A lot of these you can get in my book. You can find a lot of them on my blog, ivanmisner.com, but it's also in my book, Networking Like a Pro. Get the second edition, Networking Like a Pro. And this is in there, 24/7/30. Within 24 hours of meeting somebody, and remember, I love the fact that you say take notes. Take notes if it's culturally acceptable on the back of their card, maybe when they walk away, or on a notepad. Take notes. Within 24 hours, follow up with them. Drop them a note in the mail. Nobody's ever sending cards or notes anymore. That'd be great. If not, at least send them an email. And you email them and say, hey, it was really great meeting you at the such and such event last night. I enjoyed our conversation on XYZ, and I hope our paths cross again. Don't sell to them. People have these sales fits where they just, I can't get on myself, hey, go, here's some stuff that you can buy on my website or whatever. Don't do it. By the way, my website that I've named several times is all free stuff, except there are links to my books, but it's all free stuff. All 15 years of content there. It's all free. So don't sell to them. Within 7 days, connect with them on social media. Now, 7 days, connect with them on social media. And here's one of the notes you want to take. What platform do you like to be active on? Which platform are you most active on? Find out what platform they're most active on, because that's where you want to connect with them on for sure. You might connect with them on several, but for sure you want to connect with them on that one. I learned that from my kids. I learned that from my children. My eldest is 35, my youngest is 30. And when they were in teenagers, I learned that from them, because I would call my eldest and she wouldn't answer the phone. This is when she was like 17. She wouldn't answer the phone. I texted her, boom, she'd respond immediately. I'm like, honey, this device is a phone. You put it to your ear, you have a conversation, you can actually talk. And she's like, yeah, Dad, I know. Okay, fine. So I realized if I wanted to connect with her, I had to text her. Then my second daughter, I would call her, nothing. I would text her, nothing. I was talking to my late wife. I was like, what do I do with Dorian? I can't connect with her. And this is 15, 20 years ago. She said, you have to WhatsApp her. I said, what's WhatsApp? And so I downloaded WhatsApp and I tested it once, called her, nothing, texted her, nothing, WhatsApped her, and she responded immediately. Okay, fine. Then came my son. He wouldn't answer the phone. He wouldn't text. He didn't like WhatsApp, but he was a gamer. And the platform he loved was Steam, which is an online platform. I became a member of Steam and I bought a game because it had an instant messaging feature. And I knew that if I instant messaged him on Steam, he'd respond. And I tested it and boom, he'd respond immediately. Yeah, Dad, what do you want? And so I'm telling you this story because it doesn't matter what platform you like. If you want to build a relationship with that person, you go to the platform they like. And so if I wanted to communicate with my children, I communicated in the way that they would be most receptive to. So 24 hours, send them a note. 7 days, get on their social media, comment, don't sell to them, comment. Hey, what a great post, love it. Within 30 days, reach out to them and say, we met a month ago. It was great talking to you at that event. I've been following your social media. Really love that post. I'd love to get together with you for coffee and just learn more about your business if you've got some time, or if they live far away, we can connect on Zoom and learn more about your business. And then learn more about their business. And don't sell to them. That is, I think, the best follow-up system to start to make touch points and connections with somebody that can lead to a deeper relationship. I hope that helps.
Phenomenal. I'm actually just writing some wonderful notes here, as I hope the audience are writing an amazing amount of notes. This is absolutely wonderful. You mentioned the book, Networking Like a Pro, the second edition, and your website. I'd love our producer to bring that up on the screen for the benefit of our audience, because I think it's an appropriate time to share this. And this here is fantastic. And you can obviously, ladies and gentlemen, the old Amazon, we all know how to engage with Amazon. And if we could then...
yeah, that's the second edition.
That's the second edition. That's wonderful. And then the website as well that you've been mentioning, if you could just... Dr. Jacqueline, our producer, will bring that up at some point soon. And just from the producer, here it comes. It's popping up like magic. There we go. Dr.
There it is. See, it's all. Each one of those are a blog. You go back to 2007, I think.
2007. It's just phenomenal. And time's marching away with us. You mentioned books. Tell us about this new book that you are going to be launching on October the 17th, The Third Paradigm. Yeah. A radical shift to greater success. Tell us, please, would you mind elaborating a little bit more on what this is all about, and where people obviously going to Amazon, but where else might they be able to get copies?
Yeah, and it's available now on Amazon for pre-order. So okay. If you do a search on The Third Paradigm, you'll, in my name, you can do pre-orders there. So the first paradigm of business was competition and productivity. And it's from the 1800s, 1900s, Frederick Taylor, the Galbraiths, the Gants. It was all about productivity and, putting the other guy out of business, productivity, business. And the second paradigm was cooperation. The second paradigm started in the late 50s, early 60s, where, people kind of are important too. It's not just productivity. People are important too. It started with things like Theory X, Theory Y by McGregor, where they talked about the asset of the employee is an asset, and you want to train that employee and work with that employee. So we went from competition to cooperation. The third paradigm is co-creation. The third paradigm of business is co-creation. And most of us know co-creation from the perspective of crowdsourcing. Crowdsourcing is a great example of co-creation. And so the book, we did a survey of 4,000 people, and we've got a lot of great data, but we also have a story, a true story, interwoven into every chapter of the book about somebody who went in one project, went through all three paradigms: competition, cooperation, and co-creation. It was finally the co-creation that made the project successful. So the data, the information, the concepts we put, the story, and the last chapter is really unique. Instead of doing a summary chapter, we had the publisher interview us. And so we as co-authors answered all of the questions that we had, and we thought that was a rather unique way to end a book. And so it'll be out on the 17th. You can pre-order now, The Third Paradigm.
And may I ask, are you doing a book signing anywhere? Is that something that we can let out the bag? Is that somewhere that people can come and meet you in your beautiful part of the world?
Well, yes, I'll be in Madrid, and I'll be signing books there right after the book comes out. About 2 weeks after the book comes out, I'll be in Madrid signing books. And I haven't set up all the places that I'll be signing books next year, but I'm constantly doing presentations, so I get around and sign lots of books.
Wonderful, just wonderful. I know time is running away with us. We've got a few more comments, which I'd love Dr. Jacqueline to bring up on the thing here. Question: is there a time frame for a conversation at a networking event? And I think it's a brilliant question, Javed. And welcome, Javed. Lovely to see you all the way from wonderful sunny Mauritius. Is there a time frame, Dr. Misner?
Yeah, I think you hold the time frame loosely. It kind of depends on where the conversation's going, and there may be times where it's quicker, and there may be times where it's longer. But generally, 5 minutes or so in a conversation. And if you think, wow, this is somebody I really want to talk more to later, then you definitely want to apply the third part of that 24/7/30. You definitely want to reach out and say, I really enjoyed our conversation a month ago, and I would love to get together for coffee or tea or whatever and learn more about what you do. I would urge against, spending 30 minutes with somebody, even 20 minutes with somebody in a networking event, because one of the opportunities is to spread that visibility. You want to be visible. You want to meet new people. And then when you find people that you really want to make a connection with, do it outside that meeting. So, 5-10 minutes roughly, but really depends on how the conversation's going. I hope that answers the question.
Great answer. Wonderful answer. And I know we could dig a lot deeper on everything we've been discussing and talking about. Any further comments or anything that needs to be shared from the audience coming through to us, Dr. Jacqueline? Thanks, VCP. Got it. How about business cards? Are you for or against them? And how about e-business cards? What a great question.
I am definitely for having printed business cards. Will printed business cards be the norm forever? Nope, not going to happen. They'll be replaced with something. But here's the thing. There is no uniform digital business card that the overwhelming majority of the public is using. And until that happens, I will continue to have a printed business card in my toolbox for networking. And I would urge you to do the same. At some point, there will be some technology that is utilized by the majority of people, and that's when business cards may no longer be relevant. You hit that tipping point, and I've seen this tipping point happen many times. It started with reel-to-reel tape-recorded messages for the telephone when I was in high school, and then later it became fax machines, and people were like, I don't want a fax machine. But all of a sudden there was this tipping point where everybody has you don't have a faxing machine? You don't have a fax machine? Everybody has a fax machine. And then it was email. So many people was like, no, I'm not going to send stuff on email. And then all of a sudden everybody has email, and you don't have an email address, really? So when we get to that point of tipping point where everybody is using a platform of some type that is uniform, then I think business cards will be a thing of the past. Until then, print them.
What a great answer. What a great answer. And interestingly, I was chatting with my wife the other day, Ivan, and I think digital there's many benefits as we can appreciate, but we talk about photographs and how one of those old school, we used to take pictures, get them printed, and we would really spend time reminiscing. And I think the same effect. Now everything's digital. Everything goes onto your whatever drive it is, and you miss out so much. You might get reminders of that specific event, but I'm with you. I think the business card is something that is such a key ingredient in our connecting with people. And again, I think quality. I know we won't get into quality now, but I know because quality is huge.
Yeah, it's important. This is thick. Hey, let me give you a suggestion on the digital photos. We're completely off topic. My family and I would, on New Year's Eve, every year, when the kids, especially when the kids were young, and my wife would do it when the kids moved out. We would go through. I save all the photos in folders by year, and I have business photos and personal photos. And I would take the personal photo folder, and we would do a slideshow on New Year's Eve. Everything that we did that year together or individually, all the photos, and it might be hundreds of photos, but they were quick. And if somebody wanted to see it a little longer, we'd back up and look at it longer. But what a great way to look at the digital photos as a family. Really recommend it.
Beautiful. I love that. And then gone are those days of the old slideshow. I remember that growing up as well. Wonderful, wonderful insight. Again, a few more. I think there's a two-part question coming our way from one of our viewers. And here it goes. You can see that. Can you, Ivan? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No.
Sure I can.
Here we go.
Yeah. I was going to take a taxi back, and one of the members asked where I was going. I don't understand the question part of that. He was asked where you were going. She asked to join her. How do I treat her the next time we meet? Was she nice to you? I mean, if she was very nice to you, treat her the same. No, why? Why pretend? I would definitely not pretend. She was nice enough. It sounds like, if I read it correctly, she was nice enough to drive you somewhere, and was very nice to you, very kind to you. Yeah, no, don't pretend.
Absolutely.
Embrace the relationship.
That's amazing. Yeah, embrace it.
Listen, I've been to people's houses that were bigger than mine, better than mine. Embrace it. There's all kinds of different people. Maybe it'll motivate you.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Again, I think we're getting some wonderful comments here. These golden nuggets and people sharing things. Something that I'm conscious of time. We've got a few moments, but with regard, and we can go into pandemic and we can go to networking online versus networking in person, but I don't really want to go to that. Just something for someone who's sort of, getting into business, they've set up their business. What golden, apart from the visibility, credibility, and profitability it leads to, it's not the formula. What are some of the golden keys? And I know you always love sharing something that is a real golden nugget when it comes to the end of something. What would you share on that front there, Ivan?
As a wrap up, is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, as a sort of starting to wrap up, but just, I know there are lots of people out there who are starting a business or in business, and maybe they have they have a bit of trepidation. They feel, that they don't maybe match up to the mark, or they're not sure how to network. Would just throw some things out there that would leave people with some thought.
Liz, if you feel like you don't know how to network, there's so much content out there. YouTube, my blog, books. Again, I'd recommend Networking Like a Pro. It's a learned skill. It's a skill that you can definitely develop and practice. You got to go out and practice, and don't worry about making mistakes. You will. It's inevitable. We all have. I have. You got to get out there and practice. And you also want to hone your skill at describing what it is that you do. And people get so focused on the function that they provide that they don't think about, a friend of mine calls it the afters. What will things look like after you do what you do for somebody? Those are the afters. Some people call them the benefits, but I love the phrase the afters. What are the afters for someone? And you never know what the afters are unless you're talking to your clients. I'll give you a great example. A BNI meeting, they were doing a brainstorming session, and one of the members was an attorney, and the attorney said, "I'm a divorce lawyer. After I do what I do, you're divorced." That's not very, that's not very sexy. It doesn't sound good. And one of the members, and the chapter knew, with lawyers, you can't divulge who your clients are, but the chapter knew she had already said that she had hired this attorney, so it was no shock. One of the members raised her hand. The president called on her, and she looked at him and she said, "John, are you kidding me? You know what you did for me? You gave me peace of mind. I could sleep at night knowing that you were on the job. That's what you did for me." And he said, I would have never picked that. I'll give you peace of mind. But that's what he did. That was the after for her. So think about the afters and learn how to explain those to people in a short way that passes the eyebrow test, that gets their attention. And remember, it's a layer cake. Do 6 things 1,000 times.
Ivan, wonderful. Is there anything you would like to leave our viewers and listeners with?
Yeah, one last thought. Philip, the old phrase, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah.
I don't think it's either one. I don't think it's what you know or who you know. It's how well you know them that really counts. That's the key. I mean, I got some amazing contacts in my mobile device, in my database. But that doesn't really matter. What matters is, could I pick up the phone and call them? And if I did, would they answer my call? And if I ask them for a favor, would they say yes? That's all about building the relationship. It's not what you know. It's not who you know. It's how well you know each other that really makes a difference. Networking is not about transactions. It's about relationships. When you get that, you will build a powerful personal network. Thanks, Philip.
Boom. Boom. Love it. Love it. And on that note, I know it's one of your absolute core principles, and it is very much about trust, support that will yield happiness, opportunity, and meaning. And you put that in such wonderful context. So, Ivan, as my colleague Leanne said, you and I have a huge amount in common. We could talk for hours until the cows come home, as we often say. I thank you for your valuable time. I know it's been incredibly valuable for all our incredible listeners, viewers, people out there who've made time to join us. And real huge gratitude to you for this special moment that you've shared with us. And it's just wonderful to have got to know you slightly. And I look forward to, hopefully in the near future, our paths crossing actually in person. And I wish you a great trip to Europe in the up and coming weeks. Very, very best wishes.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And thank you for having me on. Take care.
Ladies, gentlemen, everyone out there listening, thank you so much. I really pray and hope that you got some golden nuggets from there. It will be available on the British School of Excellence YouTube. It'll be available on USA Global TV platform. Please reach out to us on any level that you feel you'd like to connect with us on. We run all these types of programs and courses, as a lot of you know, in business networking, how do we show up, communication, all of those aspects that Dr. Ivan Misner shared with us, we focus heavily on. We follow the same core principles and values. I'm a huge fan of BNI. If any of you are out there starting businesses, look into the BNI opportunity. It will kickstart your business opportunity in so many ways. And if it's not for you, then you can go along, I know, to a couple of complimentary visits. You can be invited to a chapter. Make the most of it, because you've got to get out there. You've got to build that trust. You've got to build that rapport. And you've really got to go down that route of making sure you put your money where your mouth is. Because if you say you're going to do something, you've got to follow through. So from all of us here at the British School of Excellence, from Dr. Jacqueline, the USA Global TV platform, it's been a great pleasure and an honor. And we look forward to the next Live, Learn, Teach, Inspire. Watch this space. We've got some phenomenal guests coming up for the rest of this year.
This program is brought to you in part by the British School of Excellence and founder, Mr. Philip SYKES, building confidence, changing lives. Do you share our view that etiquette is a set of modern life skills that are essential for personal and professional success? Join us as an etiquette coach and change people's lives through the power of etiquette and manners.
The last few days have been really amazing. I had a trainer course from the British School of Etiquette.
And I must say it's been one of the best decisions I've ever made and one of the best investments I've made in my own training and development.
Now, words alone will not describe the transformation and the positive path that I have traveled with the British School of Etiquette.
I found I learned a lot from the lessons this time I came.
The last few days with the British School of Etiquette have been fantastic.
And what I've learned now is really beyond my expectations.
This is the most rewarding experience and the best investment I have made this year.
It was just great. I learned so much, and when I go back to Belgium, I will incorporate a lot of it into my day-to-day life and business.
It's been absolutely wonderful for the whole week that we were here.
I feel transformed, and I feel like blowing a trumpet and tell people, come and do this school. This class is the best. This is the best school ever.
You should take it. It will change your life immediately.
I am now able to teach other people how to bring the best of them.
Thank you.
Thank you, BSc.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you to our clients for their testimonials on the Train the Trainer program. Our exponential and global growth is so significant that we have evolved from the British School of Etiquette to the British School of Excellence, where we're investors in people. Let us invest in you and your career. Contact us to become an etiquette coach. Go to thebritishschoolofexcellence.com. Start your career and elevate your success today.